Wantiere e dwe ma piny mangima yange physical therapy. En dwe mar miyo oganda thuolo mar ng'eyo ber mar physical therapy. Lolwe TV nolimo St.ALBANS Center mantiere Ongata Rongai, kama ne Mikayi Jean norwakowa mar neno kare mar timo ni nyithindo mantiere kod tuoche kaka AUTISM, Down syndrome, CELEBRAL, PALSY kod tuoche mamoko therapy. Kinde mathoth jogo marito kata makonyo nyithindo madwaro therapy ok oher yangi. Jogo osebedo e ong'ala mamalo mar konyo nyithindewa. Mikayi Beti ma jahigni 42 ma nyathine mokwongo ne nitiere kod tuo noero mar autism. Lero ne Lolwe TV gimomiyo ne ochako St.ALBANS Center.
So when I got my firstborn, by then I was working as a business lady. So my son went to school as usual, my firstborn. Then the teachers told me my son cannot learn. And I wondered, the boy is bright, he looks okay. How is it that after a whole year, that he cannot learn? It's a very upscale school in Nairobi. So I'm wondering, and that's a school where we're paying a lot of school fees. And I told them, okay, so what do we do? I was a new parent, I didn't know much. So they told me, what you do, let him rewind baby class. Me, I've never had a child rewind baby class. So I said, Shingopad, I said, okay, let's see what happens. In the meantime, I prayed, and God showed me, now, we had this place, we had bought this house. God told me, you know what, make a school for your child. So I made a school, so he didn't report second term. So we started teaching him, and in 2 years, he covered 4 years of academics and went to class 2. Then he went to another school because we're only handling kindergarten children. He went to another school. As we are speaking now, the young man scored over 400 marks as he's in a national school. So clearly, sometimes it's not that a child has a problem, but it's the handling in the institution that could be wrong. My second-born, I was with him here at St.ALBANS Kindergarten then, and Paul portrayed signs of autism. So for him, I stayed with him until when he was 6 years. Then I realized the center is not really serving him. So that's when I started looking out and looked for other places where they specialize in autistic children. Then I discovered there was a lot more in there to learn. So I went back to school. Then learned a lot. Luckily, while he was in another center, we learned about some treatment in India. And I decided, wow, this is good. It's a trial treatment, but I'm willing to take it up. Because if he has 90% chance of recovery, why not? So we went to India. He got a stem cell transplant done. By then he was 9. Then we came, when I was getting his papers to go there, I already had a small child who was 3 years by then. Now my thirdborn was a bright child by all means and standards, because at 2.5 years, the child could do things, and then I'd wonder, really? Okay, this boy must be very bright. But he was not outspoken. He was not very verbal. So I said, well, he'll pick up with time because he was too young then. But I still carried him along to India because as I was trying to get documents, one good doctor told me, okay, you're trying to get papers for Paul. I have not seen Paul. I'm now quoting the doctor. I've not seen Paul for the last 9 months. I don't even know whether he died. I was like, really? I don't understand how a doctor can say such words. Then he asked me, now this little one you're carrying along, now the third one, he tells me, you've not noticed he's also autistic. I said, no, I never noticed that my son was autistic. How? And he could do his academic work quite well in baby class. He had only done 1 term of baby class. So I said, okay, I was taking one child, now I'm taking two. The doctor refused, by the way, he refused to give me the letter to apply to go to India. But we got the letter from another doctor, we applied, and we went. Then we came back. Within a few days, Paul had calmed down completely. So now he's now doing his academics very well. He's now 13, he's able to learn. And you can see he does his work very well. Even that you can see, he's called Paul Miles. You can see he can do his work to completion. Yeah, he's quite good now. The other boy, the one who was 3 years then, my third born, within 4 months, they told me I need to give 8 hours of speech therapy per day. 8 hours. I made the math where I used to go for therapy, it was 2,000, other places 3,000, so times 8, times 30 days, not affordable at that point in time. So I said, you know what, I'm quitting work. I'm doing whatever it will take, since they had trained me and they were still giving us more information even when we were back here in Kenya. I did therapy for my child. I did whatever it took, worked with a therapist, worked with teachers, worked with, I was always on the move. From morning to evening, my activities were get this boy to speak, get him to overcome autism. Do you know it took a record 4 months for the boy to be able to say his name, where he comes from, and where he goes to school. To me, that was just amazing. So that is how my son recovered. He was 4 years by then. He had just turned 4. So he gained his speech, gained his milestones. By the time he was 5 years old, the boy could tell you things like names of the planets, the temperature on each of the planets, the name of the moons on those planets. The boy at 5 years could tell you parts of the brain and what they do.
Wow.
Please remember, he didn't have speech. Now he has speech and he can give all this information. Right now he's 8 years old and he's in a normal school and his performance is just excellent.
Pamela Mwangi mabende en manager e St.ALBANS Center lero na wuodhe kod nyithindo magin godo.
Mimi nafanya kazi hapa St.ALBANS Center na napenda hii kazi. Niliamua tu nifanye hii kazi juu ya kusaidia watoto. They are blessings to me na ninawapenda tu sana. Changamoto, maybe mtoto akianza ku throw tantrums, sometimes unashindwa utamhandle aje, but lazima utafute a way out vile utambembeleza hadi atulie. Maybe by playing, kuruka kwa trampoline, kumpea toys zenye anapenda until huyo mtoto anyamaze. Na manage tu kupitia kwa director wangu na maybe some support kutoka kwa watu wengine huku nje na pia wazazi. Though watoto wenye tuko nao hapa wengi hawawezi lipa. So huwa tunatafuta misaada huku nje ndio angalau tuweze kuboosti center yetu. So far tuko na watoto 8. Tuko na boarders 4 na day scholars 4.
Christine Mwende ma en japuonj mane otiegore kaka japuonj ECD ma bende ne wadayo dhoge lero ne Lolwe TV gimomiyo noweyo puonjo e skul mane ntiere mar rito nyithindo mantiere kod tuoche kaka autism, Down syndrome kod cerebral palsy.
Director alinicall akaniambia vile ananiona I can handle with these kids kulingana na vile aliniona naweza kaa na wao. Mimi sikukataa. Vile nilikuja aliniambia hapa ndio naweza pata blessing kuliko wale wenye wako normal, kwa sababu unaona watoto nikiwatesa isipokuwa Mungu anajua hawezi wasema nilifanywa. Kwa hivyo hii kazi nafanya nikiongopa Mungu bila kuongopa mtu. Tunaanza na assembly asubuhi. Kiingia kwa class tunaimba. Kana mfundisha number work na wimbo kulingana na number work. Yaani tunaanza kusoma. Napea mtoto 1 at a time kwa sababu ukipea wote wengine wanaweza rarua vitabu. Kwa hivyo nafunza 1 at a time. Changamoto zenye huwa napata wakati na wanafundisha. Mwingine unaweza mwambia fanye hivi. Kama ni kalasi umempea anaweza tupa.
Elizabeth Mwasa maja higni 56 en miyo mosebedo karito nyithindo e kar jot ma ST.ALBANS Center.
Kila kitu kinakuanga na sababu yake. Nilikuwa naenda kutembelea rafiki yangu kwa shule inaitwa ST.ALBANS. Alafu nikakuta anafanya kazi ya watoto. Sasa ile kuwahurumia, wakaniuliza kama naweza kubali nipigiange hao watoto, na nikawaambia naweza kubali kupika chakula. Sasa nilianzia tu hapo sababu nilikuwa najua kupika. Chakula yao kupika sio ngumu kama ile nilikuwa napika mahali kwingine.
Sasa ulikuwa unapika chakula kama
ya watoto?
Unasema ni tofauti na hizo.
Ni tofauti na hii sababu nilikuwa napika kwa muhindi. Chakula ya muhindi ni ngumu, hii sio ngumu. Na nikafurahia kukaa nao sababu roho yangu iliwapenda. Na ile kuwahurumia yani. Nikiwa nao nasikianga niko vizuri. Nikiwapea chakula sisikiangi roho yangu ati naona ni mchafu, sababu saa nyingine anajikunia, anaweka mikono kwa mdomo, anajichafua. Sina hiyo roho ya aina hiyo, nampanguza tu mzuri. Naonanga tu ni kama watoto wangu. Tunakaa nao, ninalala na hao, siendangi nyumbani. Yani nafurahia, naonanga tu Mungu aliniita tu niwasaidie. Na ninakuanga na furaha kwa moyo wangu. Siwezi kupenda wakae hivyo ati ndio niwapigiange. Lakini kwa vile Mungu aliwaumba hivyo na akaniunganisha nao, sikuwa najua. Na nikafurahia hiyo sababu yeye ndio alinipea hiyo kazi. Kwa hivyo nasikianga kwa moyo wangu niko na furaha nikiwa nao. Sionangi kama niko na walemavu, hapana. Naonanga niko sawa. Hata ukinikuta nikiongea nao utashangaa, utaona ni kama niko tuna mtu normal tunaongea na yeye. Kwa hivyo Mungu aliweza kunipea roho safi ya kuwasaidia na kuwapenda. Kwa hivyo ndio ninashukuru. Na wengi wao watoto kwa chakula ni ngumu sababu wengine hawalipi school fees, wazazi wao hawana uwezo. Na ile hutu ya mtu kulingana na huyu mama anaona awasaidie sababu hata yeye ako na mtoto kama hawa. Kwa hivyo ni ngumu, sisi tukipata mshahara inakuanga ngumu. Lakini kwa ile huruma sababu hata wazazi wao hawana pesa, unaona tu uvumilie. Kwa sisi tunavumilianga hivyo. Sababu ni viumbe za Mungu, sasa tutafanya nini? Na Mungu amesahau kukuita. Unajaribu kuenda hata unashindwa. Unajikuta tu unakaa. Unajua kitu Mungu amekuita ukiwacha inakuanga ngumu. Kwa hivyo ndio mimi nasemanga wacha tu nikae nao sababu Mungu aliniita.
Benene wayudo thuolo mar donjo e therapy room.
Yes, now these balls are called therapy balls. They are used for the children to help them with even exercise. Some children have fear. They have some kind of phobia of movement. So they'll be put here and then they'll be tunawaswing. So akilala hapa alafu tunamfanya ni kama anaenda amelala chini anaenda kuanguka hivi. Unaona sasa tunataka aanze kujishikilia. Wengine they don't know how to defend themselves. They don't know how to they can't sense danger. So when you put the child there several times, unasikia sasa hiyo motion kama anaenda kuanguka, sasa unaona ameanza kuweka mikono hivi anajishikilia. So there's something going on in the brain so that the child can respond in a certain manner. So there's a lot the balls do. This one has spikes. Yes, mdunga, but it's very good. Even for their senses, there's this one spikes and also the smooth one. All of them have a different outcome in the therapy for the child. And remember, not all the children need the same kind of therapy. For each child, it is different. It's very different. So you'll find maybe a child is a young child, they have cerebral palsy. So for that kind of child, we'll normally use a mat. instead of a bed, yes, we'll normally use a mat. So we put the child here. The mat is cleaned, it's disinfected, and then tunaweka shuka ya huyo mtoto, tuna massage, anafanyiwa massage na therapist. Hadi, you see some of them, they can't move their fingers, their hands, until now those hands and their legs can now get to respond and start moving. Kama ni kushika kitu, anze at least kushika kitu. Yes. So then we also have things like, we have rockers, like these are rocker. It helps with motion. So, and also we help to teach the small ones turn taking. So weka hapa na mwingine hapa, mwingine goje hapo. You know, they rock, you know. So it helps them. Then we have things that helps. There are many. We have lots of these and different types. Some are even wooden. So we want the child to put the pins and remove. If you can try to remove, it's very, ikishika inashika kabisa. So for that child to be able to do that, it means we've really worked with their muscles until they're strong enough to be able to do that. Then remember, this board is also teaching them the different colors. So we'll tell the child, put the blue ones on this side, the red ones on the other side. So at the same time, they're learning colors. And remember, you're teaching a child who is maybe 10 years, and this time they're learning colors. It's not easy, but it's doable. Yeah. So there are a lot of things. We have boards. We have a lot of equipment. We have, you know, animals. Then they do a lot of threading. We can have, sometimes we've got shapes. We'll tell the child the different kinds of shapes. Then anachukua uzi. And then they put the string through the different either beads or different kinds of items. We use different things, different textures, different colors. Yeah, so when the child learns how to do that, we know the child is getting somewhere. There's a child who cannot even thread anything. Remember, they have even to learn how to tie their own laces. So we have to start somewhere with different activities.
What are the importance of
Therapy
therapy?
is very, very important. Very important. It's what helps a child to achieve a milestone. Putting it in layman's language. For example, a child cannot hold this item. We want to help that child to be able to hold this item. So how do we do that? This may look like a small thing, but it has a lot of work. We want the child to squeeze it. We want the child to play with it. We want him to be able to pick, put it somewhere, pick again and put it somewhere, so that they can even have the eye-hand coordination, which will eventually help them even to be able to move their eyes from where they are to the blackboard. Eventually it will play out in class, but it has to start somewhere. Yeah, sometimes we also have, we use beads. We can even use cereals, emptying and pouring. So we get them to use spoons, you know, just a normal spoon. We've got the scoops, and then we get a child to, for example, remove cereals from here, put them here, until it's full, and then anarudisha. All that has a lot of benefits to the child, and eventually it plays out. Because how will this child ever be able to do something like even fetching cereals in the house? To remove them from the container and put them in a sufuria. It has to start from somewhere. Yeah. And when you find a child is not playing with some of these things when they are young, it becomes a problem later in life. The other thing is we have different kinds of boards, different kinds of blocks. Sometimes you can get a child to create something with the blocks. Sometimes we can tell them to use maybe just one color. For those who have reached the level of learning the colors, now we want to see, can they be able to identify and reproduce that in class? So we tell them to make different kind of things, show them how to create a car. So first, as a therapist, the therapist has to create that item to show the child how it's done. And then allow the child to attempt to do it with guidance until the child becomes perfect. For an autistic child is not the same with a normal child, who you will put blocks there and you'll find the child doing something with them. that child may just take them and arrange them in a line. You know, if you give a child blocks and this is all they are doing the whole day, or you find they're just arranging them in a straight line and nothing else apart from just arranging them, that's not normal play with blocks. So you'll now get to know that that child has a problem.
Victoria Wanza kod Marion Kalulu gin wakeini ma osebedo ka keto ler e kar chiwo therapy noero.
Mimi ndo washa hizi rooms yani na TV room, afu pia mimi hukunja manguo na kusaidia ushosh jikoni. Mimi furahia tu kukaa huku na kusaidia watu wenye wajizi, wenye hawezi sana kujifanyia kitu sana. Uzo naweza mshukuru sana kuvele aliniandika huku kazi, amefanya nimejua mingi kwa watoto wenye wako special na wenye pia hawajiwezi, yani wenye wanajiweza na wenye hawajiwezi. So mimi najua sana kwenye wanajiweza na pia wenye hawajiwezi pia kidogo.
Sana watoi na waosha na wafulia, kuna wenye tunaendanga na wao zoezi, tunapika na wao pia, kuna wenye pia naendanga na wao, tunaenda na wao home kwao juu kuna wenye pia tumezoea na wao wasichana wa age yangu. Hii job ni fun kwa dem kama mimi juu pia kuna my mates wenzangu hapa, so wananizoea kama mmoja wao. Kama mseme amejitolea ni poa kama uchagui saidia mshahara pia. Yaani unabeba ni kama pia ni mam sister wako, my mate wako hivi. Yeah. The director anaweza sema ni mpoa sana kwa side yangu, juu anakuwa mpoa sana. Then mse kufungua job kama hii ni poa pia na kusaidia wase wengine juu kuna wase huku nje wanatafutanga place kama hizi wapati.
Gimaber nyaka bed kod ohinga mage. Mikai Jean konowa midhiero kata ohinga mabende okale kaka director ma ST.ALBANS Center.
One of the main challenges that we face is getting parents to understand that here we don't work like a normal school. We run throughout the year because therapy is not something you can say, we are closing for 2 months in November, so we shall review therapy in January. That doesn't work. The child will start regressing. So for us, it's a center where we work throughout the year to help the child achieve their milestone. Yeah, because each child has a different milestone to achieve. So that's one challenge. But with time, they're getting to understand why the child has to be here throughout the year, even if they're having breaks to go home and come back. Yeah, that is both for the boarders and even for the day scholars. Then the other challenge is affordability. It's not cheap being able to pay teachers, therapists, and people to take care of the center. Most parents lost their jobs during COVID. Others just cannot afford. I mean, how do you tell someone to afford 8 hours of therapy every day? Here we're able to do 5 hours plus of therapy. But how do you get a person who maybe earns, let's assume even 50,000, they can't afford therapy every day. So when they come here, we're able to give that, and then the parent can support with food or whatever they're able to afford. Yeah, they can support the center. And also we also request them if a child, a parent, or can get a well-wish out there, someone who can support this child, all the way then we work with them to achieve their milestones. And especially if for those who are able to have money out there and can afford to take up a child, we get a lot of child coming in. You see, my son recovered in 4 months, but he was not, by the time we started therapy, he was 2 months to 4 years. So at that period of time when a parent has just realized that this child has autism, most of them discover by the time the child is turning 3 years, they discover the child is not talking, so that's when they'll bring the child out and ask for assistance. When they're told they have to do therapy every day, they can't afford. So you find they're doing 1 hour per month, 1 hour per week, which is 4 hours in a month. Those are very few hours, 52 hours in a year. Really cannot get a child to recover. And this parent has to work. So they're not going to be able to give that therapy, and they can't afford to hire a therapist. So we normally say if someone out there or an organization, their CSR can take that child and sponsor them. so that we work with this child. By the time that child is turning 5 years, we normally say, we hope within that 1 year the child has recovered, fully recovered. Even if it takes 2 years, it's better. But if the child is already 10 years onwards, it's very difficult to train them. They are trainable, but it takes more effort. But if they are trained when they are young, it's easier. But you see, most parents are thinking, oh, the child is young, they will recover. They will not. You have to do the therapy for them to recover. It won't just happen by itself. Something has to be done by someone who knows what they are doing. Yeah, and know the gaps for this child and work towards achieving that milestone. Then another challenge we have is that the number of staff that we must have here are very high in relation to the number of children. A normal school will have 20 children in a class with 1 teacher. Here, every 2 children require 1 teacher. So it reaches a point whereby we have to tell the parent, we would want to take your child, but we can't afford to hire another member of staff. But you see, if this child is sponsored and we get money to pay that other member of staff, oh my dear, we would take as many as God can help me. Yes, because right now resources are limited. Doing it from pocket is almost not possible, but we are doing what we can with what is available. The other challenge we have right now probably is just a question of equipment, improving on the place. We would love to have a bigger therapy room, to have more equipment in there to help the children, and at least a perimeter wall. Yeah, that is very important for the center, because the live fence can only handle us for so long. But with a perimeter wall, it makes everything easier, because we do not want a case whereby a child is getting lost.
Mika Jean mabende nitiere kod farm nolero ne Lolwe TV kaka osebedo kod chandruok e yore mag chiemo kod kaka inyalo kangi. Ka nokwayo ng'ato ang'ata manyalo yudo ne deep freezer mondo kik chiemo kethrene.
Then also we rear chicken. The children get to relate with animals. They also get to see a chick grows from this point to this point. So the challenge is when we now have to market the chicken, we may not get, like the several times we've done it, we don't get a ready buyer on the spot. So we end up incurring losses because of challenges in marketing. But if we're able to store, let's say we get an organization, even the ones that manufacture deep freezers, if we would only get a 5-foot to a 7-foot deep freezer, whenever we get the chickens ready, we keep them there, and selling is now done when we have clients. So we can be able to keep them even for a few days or a week, and there'll be continuity without incurring the losses. Because the money also we get from there, we buy food for the students. We also get sponsors who support us with food. In fact, we just exhausted the last sponsorship that we got, so we would welcome another donation. And the last thing that we hope for is an internet connection with computers. These children are very good when they are trained. So, and in a controlled environment, if we would get a sponsor who can help us with computers and an internet connection, that would be fantastic.
Ng'ato ang'ata nyalo tero nyathine mantiere kod cerebral palsy, autism, Down syndrome kod tuoche mamoko madwaro therapy e St.ALBANS Center. Kamae e kaka inyalo yudo Mikai Betty.
This is St.ALBANS Autism and Special Needs Center. For those who would like to get in touch with us, we are located in Ongata Rongai, near Adventist University, inside Acacia Valley Estate, house number E2. For those who would like to call, you can call us on 0722 779871. I can repeat that again. 0722 779871. You can send us a WhatsApp message, a query, and those with children out there who have autism or cerebral palsy, kindly get in touch with us so that we can walk this journey with you. It's possible for a child to achieve their milestones only if the right things are done, especially when the child is young, and especially if the child is below 5 years. You really need to work overnight to make sure that the child has a normal life. giving more than 8 hours of therapy per day. So since it's quite hard, give us a chance to work with you and walk the journey with you for the glory of God. Thank you.
Wariwore kod piny mangima madhialo dweno ero moyiedhi ayanga mar yango odiochieng'no ero mar therapy. Kaka wuono ne walimo St.ALBANS Center kama gidile kod nyithindo mathiso mantiere kod autism. Ne Lolwe TV, an Elizabeth Otieno.